Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Energy and Resources. Does he stand by his statement that when facing power price increases, consumers should shop around?
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Energy and Resources, yes, indeed the consumers are doing just that. For the month of September only, 30,000 plus have switched suppliers. So I encourage consumers to check out the Power Switch website. Once a household profile has been entered, a list of energy suppliers and their prices will be displayed in that geographical area.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
In advising consumers to shop around, what advice then does the Minister have for a new Plymouth consumer like Mrs Joanne Farley, who got a nasty surprise from Genesis Energy, who charged her 15% GST on her power bill for the September period?
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Yeah, Mr Speaker, I think the Minister for Inland Revenue, Honourable Peter Dunn, has dealt with that very well in the House for 2 days in a row. The government has made it very clear in the transitional period it should have been 12.5%.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Given that response, Mr Speaker, what advice does the Minister have for another new Plymouth consumer like Mr Gowan Duff, who got an even nastier surprise from Genesis Energy, who charged him 15% GST on his power bill for the months of August and September?
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Well, Mr Speaker, as I say, I encourage the consumers and that constituent to shop around. If the member is serious, they would have to advise them on the power switch on a average small household, according to the Consumer New Zealand Institute, they could save up to $442 and a large one up to $1,000. So they need to get onto the Power Switch website. Actually, Mr. Speaker, one of the energy company called Pulse Power. Pulse Power is actually door knocking on households because they're doing that.
Point of order, the Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr Speaker, I've tried to listen as carefully as it is possible to the answer being given to us, and that my colleague, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta, has asked about a situation for consumers living in New Zealand being forced to pay a tax imposed by government. This is not a question about switching between power companies. This is about a government-imposed tax, and she asked about a rate of 15% being applied to 2 months, August and September, and what we're hearing doesn't relate to that at all.
Order, the members getting to the substance of the question now. The question asked what would the Minister say to a person somewhere in New Zealand who received an account with GST charge at 15% for the months of August and September. The Minister was telling the House what she would say to that consumer. Far be it from the Speaker to judge the matter. I think, though, we had heard... I think we'd heard sufficient. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Given that response, who will door knock on Mrs Farley and Mr Duff's door and tell them who will benefit from the backdated hike of an extra 2.5% GST in power for the August-September period, the government or the power companies?
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Mr Speaker, if Labour is really that concerned, I hope there's some half-working Labour members will go and door knock them and give them that very sensible message.
Sorry, is this a supplementary question? Nanaia Mahuta. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Why has the Minister and his government failed to ensure that people aren't hit unfairly like Mrs Farley and Mr Duff by the backdated hike in GST for the months of August and September?
The Honourable Pansy Wong.
Mr Speaker, indeed the national-led government has done everything. We make it very clear about during the power switching area. But Mr Speaker, we do more than that. We knew that when the GST increases, the government makes sure there's a whole broad-range tax cut, which means that 73% of New Zealand people who earn income will only pay up to 17.5, and every household will be 25. Most households will be $25 better off. So, Mr. Speaker, this government is doing something to make sure that people do not suffer like under Labour, 72% power price increases. 72%.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard. Order.
Mr. Speaker, I did notice that you were indicating to the Minister to wind up. Mr. Speaker, I think it's really important that you're seen to be neutral, and when the government is damaging itself, you should let it go on rather than stop it.
Order. 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 That's not a point of order. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Given the lack of
is
an
that
answer,
a point of the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta point of order?
Yes, it is, Mr. Speaker. Given the lack of an answer, can I seek leave, please, to table a document which shows GST of 15% was charged to a consumer for their September power billing period?
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Can I seek leave to table a document which shows that the rate of GST of 15% was charged to a consumer for their power billing period of August and September?
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Question number 7, Todd McLeay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.